Like a lot of women, maybe it applies to men, but from a very young age I was mad about animals. And fortunately, although we lived in the city, my parents were pretty wonderful. They went to enormous lengths to link me up with people who lived on farms, people who live with horses, and it was something that I feel very fortunate about. So it was just that direct connection that I really appreciate. And as a little girl, I had dogs and mice and cats and all those sorts of things. So yeah, that link with animals I always found very important. I've been involved in politics a lot of my life, and particularly once I became a politician, I realised that there was more avenues to be able to be a voice for animals, and that's something that I was able to do when I was in state parliament, and I certainly hope that I can continue that when I'm a member of the federal parliament, which starts next year. And I was able to take that work forward both inside parliament in speaking on legislation that too often was really not doing the right thing by animals. It would often appear that they were making the cages larger for the pigs and the sows, but in fact it really was not making any difference and was a bit of a public relations exercise, you came to realise. But also using your voice as a politician. I went on one investigation to a pig stall up near Tamworth, and the fact that I was a politician doing that, I think helped give it more coverage, that there was real problems. I've got to say that trip was particularly distressing. We noticed after a while that there was a garbage bin, a garbage bag that was moving, and there was a little piglet that had been thrown away, and some of the piglets were dead, but one wasn't. And things like that in this day and age, I've got to say, really surprised me. But it's being able to speak out, both inside and outside Parliament, I think is one of the strengths that Greens MPs bring to the campaign for greater rights for animals. Well, I'm certainly having talks, and I hope tonight I'll get some more ideas. The big one is obviously live exports. That's the big federal issue that clearly needs to be resolved, and there's interesting alliances there, and I always think finding common ground with other folk is a way to really have breakthroughs. So we see that there are some farmers, and there's also the unionists involved in the meat industry who have concerns about how the live animal trade is being conducted, and then there are growing numbers of people who are aware of how cruel this is. So we do have a strong voice, and that's a voice I certainly want to be able to take into Parliament. There's obviously the issue around kangaroos. I'm very conscious of how a lot of Australians still think that kangaroos are a pest. And there's a big misunderstanding there. So I'm interested in learning more about that issue and working out what can be done at a federal level, and I'm sure there'll be other issues that I can take up as well. There has been some movement on the issue around labelling and just a recent one about the pig sows that I spoke about. That's since I've left the Parliament. So you can see that there's advance, and that's really excellent, and I think it's always worth reminding ourselves how that was achieved was because there's a strong community voice. You do see time and time again, not just with animal issues but progressive issues across the board, that when you have the breakthrough in Parliament, it's because there is that strong public voice. It's pushed the issue onto the agenda, and it gets to a point where the politicians can't ignore it anymore. So I think there has been some breakthroughs in those areas. I've got to say another highlight for myself has been getting to know the Voiceless crew. We're here tonight at a Voiceless event, but when I went to the first awards event, it was pretty small. It was down at the Opera House and it was very excellent. But each year it goes to a bigger and bigger venue, a little bit like the Vegan Festival. Each year it gets bigger and bigger. So I think that's a good sign. I don't have animals at the moment. Partly I was looking after my son's 2 dogs for a long time, but I found because of the busy lifestyle I couldn't do that properly, so I would see that my care and love of animals would come through my work at this time.